for final hookups here. Give it a thumbs up to start. HOA, get ready. All right, before we get started, some announcements. You know, this is the first of a few community meetings that we're going to have throughout the districts. So if you can't stick around for this whole session, or it's too packed for you, the next one is next Thursday in Valhalla at 5 o'clock at that community center. We'll have more in South Kona, probably either down at Kuhonua or up at Keanakako'i, but we'll have them in the districts and so forth. We'll come back out here again, and it looks like some folks are recording this as well, so it'll be aired. But I just want to put that out to you. You guys cannot stick out through this whole.
Can you talk louder?
Okay.
We got people on the lanai here.
Yeah, a microphone broker. So. 5 o'clock in Valhalla, Thursday. Community Center. So good afternoon. I am Talmadge Magno. I'm the Civil Defense Administrator for Hawaii County. This time, is there any community leaders that I need to recognize? I invited Miley David. I know she tried to push that information out to folks, but if there is none, we'll move on to representing the mayor's office, Managing Director Lee Lord, to give us some opening statements.
Oh, great. Thank you so much. Working for the next person.
It's for the TV.
All right. So, as Talmadge said, Lee Lord, Managing Director, Mr. Roth, Mayor Roth wished he could be here today, but there was a previous engagement. He had to be out all day today. So thank you all for being here. And I can't thank enough for Talmadge and Civil Defense. We've been meeting ever since we've been advised to be aware. So I really appreciate the fire, the police, everyone that's coordinating, and especially Civil Defense. So we can't thank them enough for all they're doing. I'm glad everyone's here. When you get the information, if you could share it out. Once again, it's recorded. We'll let you know where it's going to be playing. Today I have Bobby Command, who is our Deputy Managing Director, in the back, raising his hand. But we're happy you're here, and we appreciate all you're doing to make sure you're safe and the neighbors are safe. And back to you, Deb. Thank you.
Okay, to get us started, put us in the right place to get this community meeting going, I'd like to invite Janice Ikeda to open with our pule to get us going this morning. Janice. Also, Janice is the executive officer for Vibrant Hawaii, who is one of our partners. And if any disaster happens, we kind of partner up as far as their hubs throughout the community. I think they've got over 30 hubs throughout the island, and they're a big partner in supporting, the community and government engagement. So I thank her for coming up here to get that started. So today what we're going to go through is Hawaii Volcano Observatory and their scientists will introduce you and produce information as far as the update to Mauna Loa, give you some of the science behind that helps us in determining what's going on. We'll go through their session. Then the county, the government, our partners will present what we've been doing in preparation, what you can expect from us, give you some information so that you'll be able to better know what's going on and respond if we need to. And then we'll have questions and answers. We'll also stick around. We've got this place till 4 p.m. We'll answer any questions you guys have. That back table that they have the laptops on, if you've got any special needs or requests, they'll take your information down. We're not taking a sign-in sheet, but if you got any special needs or requests, you can sign up there, give us your information, we'll contact you and work through whatever issues you have. All right. So, I think what I usually look forward to is, because this is cutting edge science with these guys, they do good quality work. We depend on them, just like we depend on all the subject matter experts for our information when we're trying to protect the community. So, Ken Hahn is the scientist in charge with Hawaii Volcano Observatory, and I'll turn the mics over to him at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Talmadge, very much.
Microphone, please.
There's sort of a difference between projecting to them and yelling in your microphone, so I'll be glad to yell in your microphone. But, thank you very much, Talmadge, and we are very glad to be here. And myself, Frank Truesdale, who's over here, is going to be doing the presentation. And Frank, if you don't already know him, is the person who's dedicated most of his career to studying and following Mauna Loa Volcano. So he has unraveled a lot of the past history of the volcano. We will be around afterwards. We also have Natalia DeLing, who's a hazard specialist. David Phillips, who's the deputy scientist in charge, is here someplace. And Liz Gallant and Carolyn Parchetta over here. Dave is way in the back over there waving. And then somewhere is Matt Patrick. Oh, there's Matt right there. Okay, so we'll all be around to answer any questions you may have afterwards, and we will stay as long as people have things they want to ask us, okay? I know this is all a little bit confusing, and it's also, the way we do our alerts, you kind of go, well, we've been in yellow for years now. Why now are we suddenly looking at things, right? And so Frank will explain some of that, but we really have been in yellow on Mauna Loa. The activity, the background activity really started to uptick in 2015, 2016. It rolled up at that point, and then it kind of rolled off, so around 2017 or 18, we dropped it back into green, but then in 2019, it's come back up into the yellow, or what we call advisory, which advisory just means you should be paying attention. But there's sort of degrees of attention you should be paying in there, and Frank will explain why we're seeing things. We cannot accurately forecast an eruption of Mauna Loa, well in advance right now. We're hoping the instrumentation that we now have out here that wasn't there in 1984 will help us pick up some clues, but that will probably be more likely useful in the next eruption of Mauna Loa than it will be in this eruption. So we have people watching all the time. We have the mountain is highly instrumented, and we are in a period of what we've been calling, high background or elevated unrest or heightened unrest, which just means there's more earthquakes than normal up beneath the summit area. And so Frank will explain what that is, and then we'll be glad to answer your questions afterwards. So Frank?
Okay, welcome. I'm going to stand over here. Should be loud enough. You want me to go on the other side?
But we can move the mic to you.
That'll probably be easier. If I stand over here, I think I'm going to be in the way. That's Okay, let's jump right in. Okay, so today I'm going to present a little bit of background information on Mauna Loa. And I'm going to go through our monitoring network, give some historical background comparing the last two instrumented eruptions from Mauna Loa, 1975 and 1984, and then go through the current status. Okay, so Mauna Loa by itself comprises 51% of the surface area of the island of Hawaii. And Mauna Loa means long mountain. And there it has a far and extending reach where it can go all the way down into Hilo. It can reach the northwest coast out there by Puako. And then, of course, the southern half of the island is dominated by that. So even if you don't live directly under the rift zones, because you live in Kohala or something, if there's a Mauna Loa eruption, the potential is if it cuts off the highway, the whole island is going to be impacted. So, the next, it's really changed that. Is it going on this one? Okay, so there have been 33 historical eruptions from Mauna Loa. About half of them stay in the summit caldera. So that means they stay at high elevation and lava flows happen in the caldera. If flows go outside of the caldera, they don't impact where people live. About a quarter of the eruptions have gone into the northeast rift zone, and those have the potential to impact communities downslope, like Hilo, Volcano, Keanakako'i, all of those other communities. Southwest rift zone has shunted lava flows, can go on both sides of the island, Pahala, Milumi, South Point, those areas. And then Mauna Loa has a class of events called radio, and those happen on the north and west flanks. Now, all Mauna Loa eruptions have started in the historical period in the summer. Okay? So, from looking at all the information that we've gone through, some of the things that we try to do is make utilitarian products for the people on the communities around the island. So this map on the left basically is color-coded, and the warmer the color, the faster the transit of lava flows to where people live. So, on the southwest coast on the island of Hawaii, you can see the travel times are mostly in a matter of hours from when the vents open. So you start a summit phase, and then within 3 hours in 1950, the lava flows were in the ocean. Within 3 hours. Okay. The opposite effect of that is over here in Hilo, where the lava flows, productivity is just as productive. And then what happens is that lava flows hit an area up high in the saddle. And that's gentle topography. And so the lava flows slow down. And when they slow down, even though there's millions of cubic meters of magma behind it pushing, it starts to pond out and flatten. And then the advance is thwarted because of the lower gentle slopes. Lava flows then have a tendency to jump out, and then they basically divide and conquer because of the topography there. So we only have one historical eruption where lava flows have gone into the central part of Hilo. We have a 1855 eruption that reached the outskirts of Hilo. But the one example that we have where flows got into Hilo actually took months to get there, 280 days. Okay, the other two areas out here, this Pahala region, what happens is that lava flows are produced at modest rates, and the time that you have to respond is from days to weeks if you live in that zone. On the other side, in the orange, is an area that has radial vents. In 1859, there was a vent that broke out at 11,000 feet, transited to the ocean in 8 days. We say in that area that you have days to weeks because it's also an area that has those radial vents, and the radial vents can break out from below sea level all the way up to the summit of the volcano. So they can break out mid-slope, produce a bunch of lava, and be right there in your neighborhood in a short period of time. This other map over here.
Excuse me,
Yes?
we cannot hear or understand you back here at all.
Okay.
So I don't know, do you not have a mic that you can't hold?
It's TV, Mike.
We don't have a PA system, so if you can't hear, you know, we'll bring some chairs up front for you.
We got a chair up here. Come on.
Well, there's all these people back here that can't hear, I don't think they're all out there.
Okay, well, anyway, this map on the left is a series of products that we made called lava inundation maps. So the way that this works is that we know the yellow area is where lava flows will initiate from. They come to the surface, and then they'll start to flow over the ground. Each little segment of rift zone can only impact discrete areas downslope. So each one of these colored regions say that this segment of the rift zone will impact only that blue-green color. These maps are on the wall. We brought some additional ones. If you want clarity on that, come talk to us. But the idea is, if the eruption starts and it hits a polygon in which you live, then you should say, oh, look at this. Now use that in conjunction with this. It's a matter of hours. Then you might decide what you might do next. Okay?
Yeah.
All right?
Where do we
Come
go?
talk to us. What's that?
If we live in that red area like I do, where do we go for
Yep.
safety in a 3-hour period for safety?
So that becomes civil defense county's responsibility. And we'll go over that when we talk about our plans.
It becomes whose?
The county's responsibility.
They said they could take questions after the talk.
Okay.
All right, so this map here shows the monitoring networks that we have on the volcano. You can see we have kilometer seismometers. The point is, it's a well-instrumented volcano. Okay, so we are monitoring the volcano. Okay, let's go back and look at seismicity relative to 1975 and 84, and then I'll show you what we have now. Okay, this is the number of earthquakes on this side. We have shallow, intermediate, and deep earthquakes represented by the different lines there. This is the period leading up to the 1975 eruption. You can see that we had a steady increase of seismicity. Just before the eruption, it ramped up very quickly. In 1984, same thing represented by this peak. Seismicity started ramping up and going up at a big clip just before the outbreak. So that's what we expect. We expect a build-up and ramping up to the next eruption. Okay, now to take a longer-term perspective. This top plot here is looking at the pre-eruptions from 75, 1984, and this is what we have now. Okay? Now, a lot of people are like, oh wow, look at that. The other thing is that we also have improved our network. So we have more seismometers there. We also have instruments that have greater sensitivity. So when you start to look at this and you see that seismicity, yes, seismicity has increased, but you can't take that and compare it to this because that's old school on the left. We have better equipment now, we have more instruments monitoring. This other one here is we're looking at from 2005, we're looking at, we were in green, and then we started to change the alert levels for the volcanoes commensurate with the increased seismic activity. Okay, now we're looking at a map view. So this is precursory seismicity. I've taken 4 years prior to the outbreak of the last 2 eruptions. And then I've taken the last 4 years based on relative to today. The green is the shallow earthquakes. The red are the deep earthquakes. Now, you see this number down here. That number right there, the magnitude, shows us that the older instruments weren't as sensitive. So now, in order to compare apples to apples, I put a magnitude limit and said, oh, this is what we saw then, and this is what we see now. Even though we have better instruments and we have more instruments, the pattern is relatively the same. What we have is magma recharge into the volcano, the deep seismicity picks up. That translates to magma moving higher in the volcano, and then we get green seismicity. That's what we had prior to those eruptions. This is where we are now. Okay, so this is looking at the last 3 weeks of seismicity, all magnitudes, and you see we have 800 and some events. And the question is, well, what's all the news? How come you guys did it? Because we've had 800 something events in the last 3 weeks, which was a level that there was a spurt or a flurry of earthquakes above what we become accustomed to as background. That then is shown in that plot there by those earthquakes. And this is a plot of earthquakes per day. And we have several days pushing 100 earthquakes per day. We're watching, okay? But that's not the whole story, because we got seismicity, but we also have how the ground changes form or shape with the influx of magma. Okay, so now we're going to go to deformation, how the volcano changes its shape with the ingress of magma. I show this as historical data because I'm going to show that. Before we had GPS, we used a laser ranging device. We shot the distance, we computed the travel times, we got a distance measurement. And that's what's shown on this plot in blue. So this technology just came to bear in 1974. Just look at it prior to the eruption of the 1974 one on Mauna Loa, and we saw the points represented by those 2 blue dots across the summit caldera show expansion. That's the influx of magma, pushes the flanks apart, the line length actually extends. So you can see inflation. Then after the eruption ended, it went through an extended period of inflating recharge for the next Mauna Loa eruption. And that's what we had there. And then post that eruption, we went through a period of recharge, and then it kind of stagnated out here in the 1995 to 2000 period. So the volcano kind of wasn't doing much. And then the red is represented by GPS. So new technology came, we introduced it to study the volcano. So here's a GPS sensor, and on that, GPS is very sensitive. We can measure down to millimeters. Okay. So now we're looking at extending that line. We got continuous GPS. Originally, you could only do campaign, where you'd set it up and then you take down the instrument, because the constellation satellites wasn't 100%. Now everybody takes it for granted. You get your phone, you say, I want to go eat someplace, and it tells you which way to go. In the old days, half of the day, or maybe 3/4 of a day, we had no GPS. You say, well, let's go, and it says, no signal. But once they got the full constellation, then we could take advantage of that. We could have GPS as 24/7 sentries on the volcano watching. Okay, so we continue that along. And now we're looking at the number of earthquakes and the GPS. We can see there's a correlation. The number of earthquakes start kicking in, the volcano inflates. 1984, the number of earthquakes kick up, and you can see between the 2 eruptions, the volcano was inflated. So as we go, we're coming down. you can see we've had some periods of extension, and then we go flat, and then we ramp up again, and we kind of go flat. So every time it ramps up, we're more vigilant, we're watching. Okay, I'm looking at current data now. We're looking at those same 2 points across that we were measuring the laser imaging device here, the last 2 years of data. We had a pulse of magma coming to the system, and then we had a contraction of that line between the 2 points. And then we can see it ramping up, gradual. It's not a very steep, it's a gradual ramping up. And then we're looking at the elevation of the station moving vertically. And you can see for a long time it was flat, and it's gradually ramping up, reflective of that recent pulse of earthquake. Okay. Now, if we look at a synoptic view of the volcano, at each of the base of the points of the arrow is an individual GPS station. They're there 24/7. Okay, they're monitoring. We can go in, pull up our computers and say, hey, what's happening with the volcano? These are showing the velocities. Each of those stations are moving out radially. That's reflective of magma recharging into the magma reservoir. You can see it's sort of symmetrical around there. Not all the points are moving equally, but overall, they're moving in a pattern that's consistent with swelling in the volcano. Now I show this slide just to put this in perspective. Look at the vectors on Kilauea relative to Mauna Loa. You can see that we're still vigilant and we're watching. We just don't see the higher rates of extension that we would associate to building up to the next eruption. We are building up, but forecasting the next eruption. Other technology we're using is satellite. This is a view from space. We can actually use the satellite to look at what we call changes in the volcano. If the distance moves towards the satellite, it's inflation. If the distance moves away, it's deflation. This one has inflationary pattern. You can see it looks like kind of butterfly wings, and that's reflective of the subsurface area that's being recharged. Instead of it being really a balloon, it's more blade-like, long and narrow, and it's inflating, and that's something we have is static. We've had about 6 centimeters of uplift based over that time period. Okay, so to summarize, we have small levels of inflation at the summit. We have above background seismicity. In my mind, what we're missing is consistent and persistent seismicity, where we start ramping up. And commensurate with that is also the deformation monitoring. We see that ramping up. Okay? So what are we doing? What's HVO doing? Well, we're up there upgrading our systems up there at the summit. We're adding additional coverage where we can. We're having community forums to let people know. We're coordinating with our partners. We're trying to identify aviation assets, because if the summit starts to erupt, we are bound to use only helicopters that are certified by the government to fly up there, and those are far and few on this island. We're doing community outreach. Go to our web pages. We have all this information that you guys see. You go to the web pages. Educate yourself about what's happening on the volcano. And people should stay aware of the hazards, stay informed. An eruption is not imminent. The last time we did this, 2002, we said it was light swelling. You can see what showed up in the paper. So, be vigilant, stay informed. Thank you.
we will be around afterwards. I'd just like to clarify a little bit about, because I think everybody's wondering, like, when will we issue a forecast? When will we say something that requires action, right? And so that's why we kind of use this yellow as kind of low and high. You know, we're out here in the high end, the yellow advisory, talking to people to make sure that you're prepared, and Talmage is going to talk about those preparations. But if we move to the orange watch, then stuff happens. Talmage takes a lot of action, we take a lot of action. That means we have a high degree of certainty. We're not absolutely sure, but we have a high degree of certainty that an eruption is going to take place. And as Frank said, just to emphasize, there's a good chance that that could just be a summit-only eruption and not impact our communities, and we can all just go, But sooner or later, one of these is going to come down, either the northeast rift zone or the southwest rift zone. And so we want to give as much warning as possible to people, and we're working closely with Civil Defense. And if you hear things, I know there's been some things transmitted after the last earthquake and stuff, that, oh, an eruption is imminent because of that earthquake. We're not saying that. What we can do with our instruments is tell when a summit eruption is imminent. We cannot tell you if it's going down a rift zone until the volcano tells us it's going down the rift zone, right? So that will be after the eruption starts. So if you see a warning that comes out and says, an eruption is imminent, it's going to come towards your house and it's going to put a lava flow down your street. That did not come from us because we, unfortunately, I would love to have that technology to well in advance tell people that, but we don't have that. Right? Real quick, one question.
Any comment on the P5s before that everybody's been talking about?
We can talk about that afterwards. They're part of the normal behavior of the volcano expanding. And it's one of the things that you would think that, okay, well, we know if we deal with this like a balloon or inflating sheet, you would think that we could find out when the pressure reaches a certain amount, then the volcano gives away. But these volcanoes are very flexible. First off, it's very hard, it's just like before an earthquake, it's hard to know when the stress is accumulated to the point where the volcano will fail. But the other thing is these volcanoes, as we saw in 2018, can move magma fairly quietly down deep. And so they can expand, and that earthquake we saw in Pahala was one of these expansion earthquakes. So magma can move in these deeper zones without us hearing because they're hot and the rock doesn't break. It's the sound of brittle rock breaking that we're picking up with our seismometers. So the volcanoes can change shape on us. And so that's why we have a hard time coming up when the critical overpressure is reached.
I'm just curious because one was on Kilauea, one was on Mauna Loa. That's what seemed a little weird, opposite sides of Bahala.
We don't have to worry about anything's going on Kilauea, okay?
No problem.
Yeah, so at any rate, if we go to orange, right, and if you're hearing things, well, typical in the past eruptions, that's typically only been a few hours prior to the onset of an eruption, where we'll see things change. And there's a number of indicators that we can pick up, and we have, 3 PhD seismologists that sit and watch these wiggles and look at the different wiggles and know what they mean, right? And so those guys are watching those, but we're not going to go into the orange watch situation unless we're quite certain that we're going to see an eruption. So there's going to be a very high probability an eruption will follow that. So I just wanted to make that clear to people. And then that means that everybody probably should be thinking about taking action, especially if you live on this end of the world of Mauna Loa, because we know the magma can move down the rift zone, the eruptions can travel fast, and the amount of time that you have to act is pretty short, right? So I just want to emphasize that we are working on this, we are concerned about it, and the reason we don't put out those warnings is because we don't want to develop anxiety and you guys need it, right? So, we want you to be aware that you're living on an active volcano, okay? That's the number one thing. Just be aware that Mauna Loa is a living mountain, right? And it does its thing once in a while. So, be prepared to have it do that. So, I'll turn this back over to Talmage here.
Thanks again. So I can see that you guys got a lot of questions. We'll hold off. Maybe what I'm going to present will answer your questions. Okay? So, anything dealing with the volcanoes, we work closely with HVO. You can see by what Frank produced, that they're very knowledgeable. All the instrumentation on the island, you know, helps them know what's going on with the volcano as much as possible. All their background, their education, and so forth. They're the subject matter experts we look to for guidance. So, in my layman's term, the way I describe what's going on is we're in a roller coaster right now. They described way back when, you know, what's been happening. April of 2021, we had this kind of same thing go on where seismicity went up. Then it kind of dropped down to background levels. And earlier this year, it went back up again. And so, at one point, at some point, it's going to do its escalation, and it's going to keep going to the point where it erupts. And we cannot wait to that point to start addressing the community. Especially you guys here on the southwest rift zone, adjacent to where vents and fissures will open up, and where it'll flow down, like Frank said, 3 hours to the ocean. We have to be prepared. You guys have to be prepared. So that's why, ever since it went back up, we've been meeting with them, we've been meeting with the county departments, the first responder agency departments that are here. We've got the police department, fire department, Parks and Recreations that does the sheltering. Also, we have partners with Vibrant Hawaii. CERT is represented here, our community emergency response teams. So we've all been working, trying to plan to the point that if there is an eruption, depending on where it's going to go, what community it's going to go, we know what to do. And we've got to get you guys to the point where you know what to do as well. So the objectives for today is to update you, give you some of the science so you can understand what's going on, and then kind of move into what the county's been doing. So along with the HVO's alert levels that Ken was just starting to talk about. So he mentioned colors. We also have just a verbal. You have normal, which is background levels. We are in advisory right now for Mauna Loa. Next would be, like he said, watch. And then finally, with eruption, would be a warning level. As he said, for you guys, because it's hours to days, more like hours, and there is the life safety threat in watch, we take action. Like I said, police and fire are here. They will be our on the ground, as well as a couple other agencies, but they'll be on the ground going into communities to make sure if we got to evacuate, we'll make sure folks are leaving their residence. You guys got to be prepared when that comes, okay? So, looking at the alert levels, that's how we respond. That's how you will be getting our messages. On that one sheet behind that gentleman in the red shirt are the ways, and then you need to get that information, are the ways you get the different information from us. So you have the Hawaii County alerts that we push out through our, what's called Everbridge. The police run what's called Nixle, so it wouldn't hurt to get their messaging as well. Emergency alert system and the wireless emergency alerts, those are national systems that we are also linked to. And so all that information, the websites where you can get that information are there. Ours is you sign up for it. You go onto the county website, you sign up for it. You receive it the way you want. I recommend not getting it every way it's offered. Get whatever you prefer, text, email, phone call. Don't get them all. The national stuff, it's automatically sent out unless you turn off your emergency alerts on your cell phone. You will get that. The WIA goes over radio. It goes over your TV message. Of course, we have sirens. Sirens, when you hear sirens going off, it means to go listen to your radio or turn on your TV and get that alert. And then also the last thing is radios.
We don't need
Yeah.
radio then.
Right, so I recognize that. And we're trying to get one of the radio stations to transmit out here. So we're working on it. But you're not always out here. If you're out and about, right? If you're in Keanakako'i, Hilo, wherever they're you have reception, that's how you're gonna get it through the radio. So receiving alerts, you need to know that information and sign up for it. And I kind of went over our actions and responses as well. So related to the alert system that HVO puts out and our discussion that we're having with them and corresponding with that alert level, we'll push out messages. You just got to have your plans in place. You need to have your plans in place for your residents, for when you're at work, what to do when you're separated, communications plans with each other. We have brochures in the back, how to build that out, what you need to do as well. And those are also on some of our websites. So I just kind of want to go through the agencies that I mentioned previously to see if they want to discuss any of their plans that they've been working on. So from HPD, we have Captain Edmondson. And like I say, get to know these people because these are the people that are going to be working in your community if it happens. Okay. HFD, we have Chief Darren Okinaka up there, and I know Chief Moeller is in the back. You guys have anything that you want to say to the group? Okay. And then also, just to let you know how serious we're taking this, we also update state emergency management. So we're fortunate that Adam Weintraub from HIMA is here. They support us, and they are linked to FEMA as well. So the information we give them, they push up to FEMA so that nationally everybody is aware and ready to respond based on what's going on. Adam, you guys?
Yeah, thank you all for coming out today. I know there's a lot of interest in this, and Tom and Ken did a great job in sharing some grounding information so that you kind of get a feel for the whole picture they're looking at. At the state level at HIMA, we know that every emergency response starts locally. So Talmadge and Ken are the guys that we look to find out to what degree we need to get involved. If the situation gets to a stage where they need more help than they can deliver from their own resources, we'll step in and help to provide additional resources. I know in Kilauea, there were some confusions about communication, about where things were open, where they weren't. HIMA sent over some public information officers at that time to help to get the word out. We're ready to do that if it becomes necessary here. But again, all emergencies start local. So the local picture and the local circumstances are what's going to drive this. So that includes what Talmadge was talking about coordinating plans and waiting for information about where the imminent threat is. But it also goes to you folks. You know where you live. You know which roads lead out of the area that you live in. Just give some thought to, is there more than one route I can take if the lava's over here or over here? Just the act of making a plan and talking about it amongst the members of your household can help you be more ready when that short notice kind of an event takes place. And there are great resources on the Civil Defense website, and we're developing some to put on the HIMA website that'll be available if you need help making that plan. So I'll be around for questions afterwards, and thank you all again for having us.
Forgot to stand in front of the mic. Anyway, also we have Parks and Recreation that does our sheltering. I have Michelle Hiraishi here to discuss, what they've been doing. We've been meeting with them regularly. They've been working hard with American Red Cross. Anything, Michelle?
Yes, so just a quick update, as a reminder, as Talmadge mentioned, Parks and Recreation, we're responsible for shelters. In fact, we should need that to this group, and so all of our shelters are pet friendly. So that question right up front, if you ask it, yes, we will allow pets in the shelter. Not the same as cattle, not the same as farm animals. So, and depending on that animal, often we will ask you to stay outside with that animal. They are pet friendly. We have a handout out back of some instructions on what to bring to a shelter should we end up in that situation. The other thing I wanted to update the group is Thursday's meeting in Pahala will be at the Food District Gym at 5, not at the community center, so it'll be a larger venue for us. So Parks and Rec, if you ever have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can answer any questions that you have directly, as well as we'll be here after the presentations today. Thank you.
So the government can't do it by ourselves, and I had mentioned Janice Ikeda with Fiber in Hawaii previously, and they're working, creating hubs around the island, and so we look for them, to support us, and us to support them in the community.
What's that name again?
Fiber in Hawaii.
Fiber, okay.
Yeah. So, I'll turn it over to Janice.
Aloha, kako. Can you guys hear me in the back?
Yeah.
All right. So, Fiber in Hawaii is a relatively new nonprofit organization, and one of our priority areas is reestablishing community-led resilience. And so, for the past couple of years, we have been formalizing a network that is now over 40 resilience hubs across our island. In every district of our island, there are several organizations that have come together to formalize this network. Some of these organizations represent schools, some of them are faith organizations, many of them are community organizations of folks, all committed to a common goal of not only building resilience within their community, but building their capacity so that should there be an isolated event anywhere on our island, that neighboring communities are able to come forward and support one another. And so one of the partners that we are really excited to partner with, well, first of all, I know that David and Lucinda in the back there are representing our Ocean View Marshallese Resilience Hub. Could you please give a wave? And we're so excited to have them as partners. Other hubs that we have in the Kapu area include Na'alehu Hub, which has been operating consistently at the Na'alehu Honganji throughout Paris and continuing on. We have a hub in Pahala. We also have Root and Rise, Therapeutic Horticulture, which is right here in Ocean View, and always open to additional groups wanting to be a part of the hub network. What we do provide is capacity building and resources for the organizations and community, and sometimes those are really practical things, like getting a printer and ink and paper, so that for folks who are not connected through the internet or the cell are able to physically hand out information to their neighbors and to their community. And sometimes the capacity building looks like training and certification that we provide to the network. And so with that, I'd like to introduce one of our partners, Philip Ong and Dane DuPont from Hawaii Tracker, who is a network of hubs to do assessments on their infrastructure and human infrastructure and physical infrastructure capacity for communications, doing an assessment and evaluation, and then helping to develop a communication plan for our hubs and for their neighboring communities. So.
Hello everyone, we'll actually work. We're working with Fiber Hawaii, we're excited to help fill in all the gaps wherever they're needed, right? And so we know that not everyone has internet access or communication pathways to hear what's going on. You can't always hear what the USGS and some of the vets are saying. We'll keep repeating it, and explain it, and discuss what's going on with you guys. They're the authorities, we're just trying to make sure it spreads everywhere for you guys to see it. You're gonna come to the hub or know that that's where the information, that's a step. Redundancy as well, right? At least more to get. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, I'd just like to, for anybody that's not familiar with the hub, the idea of these information hubs, it all comes from, based back in 2018, the Pu'ua Nua Puna. It's the hub at, across the street from the school in Mauna Loa. That was really where we came together to be able to deal with that eruption, right? And we started out with that being just, not even a vacant lot. We had to be bulldozed, cinder brought in. So basically, we learned that it's a lot easier to prepare for this instead of having to do it on the fly when the events happen. So that's what we're trying to do is create that system, that network, to be able to meet that challenge next time.
Yeah, and part of that is also online, right? So we want to cover the hubs, but also people will disperse at some point. We want to make sure you can still stay connected to your communities and to all the information, and that's why we also are working online.
Chief Okinaka has something to share with you.
Sorry. Thanks. I didn't really come prepared, so I wasn't ready to ask. But I think it's just very important. First of all, I think it's great to have so much people show up. It shows that you folks care about the community and yourselves, right? So, but just to reiterate what everybody is saying, we got to be prepared. Yeah, we got to be ready. We have to be vigilant because anything can happen. We all know what happened at the Lange Estates, right? And that was a surprise to all of us. I was on duty that day when it happened, actually. And I just wanted to share to make sure everybody understands what our capacity is, right? The first responders are here to protect the community, no doubt about it. But we have limitations ourselves, so we're only going to be able to do so much, right? You folks know we have a station right up here, so we live in this community. We have personnel that live, and they're here. You see the blue shirts? Those are the personnel that are stationed up here at Station 20, right, Overlook Station. We have 5 personnel assigned to that station to cover this entire district. So they're only going to be able to do so much, right? 1 ambulance, 1 fire truck. We have our volunteers, which is an awesome, team that we have with another brush truck. But that's the resources that we have here in Ocean. Right? The next station is in Pa'a, how far away that is, right? And you go over to the Kona side, Captain Cook is the next station, right? And we have volunteers in each district also. But just understanding what our capacity is and the limitations, and for anyone else having to come and support the needs of the community in the event something happens. It won't happen right away. And if in that, we have to evacuate just like the rest of you also. So that's on top of everything. So I just wanted to come and share what our capacity will be so everybody understands that. And we're going to do whatever we can, no doubt. If anybody's in need, we're going to try our best to do what we can. But we're just like everyone else. We're having to evacuate. We're having to prepare ourselves, make plans, just in the event something like this does happen. That's all I wanted to share.
So with the limited staffing, and you said you're getting your own families prepared, how is it that you will take action for the community?
We're just going to do the best we can with what we have. Basically, that's what it is. But, it's like, what I'm saying is our family that lives in Ocean, our personnel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we are. And no offense, this has been very enlightening as far as this, but you have not told us anything. You have not told us where we should go. You have not told us where you're hoping to put these things together. You are not, for me, you have
Sorry
not
about
told
that.
me
That's not what I came to do. Go share a bad information about. I just wanted to share what our capacity is. The reality.
Okay, so the government cannot do it all. You guys have to take care of yourself as well. So I had Frank keep this map up here just to show that Mauna Loa covers 51% of the island. Anywhere within that 51%, if it erupts, could be impacted somewhere in there. Like Ken or Frank said, it could just stay up at the summit and nothing gets impacted. There's even sparsely populated areas on this island, that it could go from summit to the ocean with just touching the highway.
When you
If
get
we're lucky.
10,000 people going
but-
down to the road, where do you want us to go?
Okay, so depending on what area is impacted, and we've got all those corridors that are illustrated, depending on what community is going to be impacted, we will shut down those areas, evacuate those people. Michelle addressed it. We will have shelters open for you to, we'll designate them at the time, whether it's in Hilo, or Kailua, or Pahala, Yano Hall. We've got both county facilities and DOE facilities. In Leilani, in that fire in the eruption in 2018, folks went to our shelters, they went to friends or families' houses, they went back to the mainland, they went inner island. You gotta fend for yourself, yes. We will take care of what we can. Looking at the FEMA, if it gets to the point where FEMA gets involved, you cannot look to FEMA to make you whole again.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely not.
They'll give you an allotment where you can go, find accommodations. And the reason we let people stay in their houses in Leilani, in Puna, if they weren't threatened, is because we do not have capacity for housing on this island. And so we come up with what we can for those people that need shelters. I know county housing came up with the tiny shelters for some of those folks. The faith-based community kicked in to help them as well. And so, it's going to be a tough situation depending on what you're capable of. You might be better off or you might not. But we'll be there to support you through the process like we did in Lower Puna. Okay? So with that, we'll wrap up the presentation and we'll go through questions and as far as what you guys need. Folks are here to answer questions, whether you want science stuff, fire, police, whatever. So,
I have one question.
Anna, you had your hand up for the longest time, so go ahead.
My question is for Parks and Recreation, and also for the hubs. If the Parks and Recreation shelters are to full capacity because of the limits of the buildings, how far outside of that building will people be able to camp or park or whatever? And if those go to capacity, our hub person said that there are clearings where you're setting up communications areas that have been bulldozed. Are those areas going to be can be an overflow for people who have campers or things like that?
Each one is site dependent, right? So we're evaluating right now what the capacity of their site is. Some sites do have the ability to have large areas for parking and that kind of stuff. Some of them have great infrastructure in terms of communication. Some maybe not. People are using buildings so one of them is like at a school, right? One of them is at a community association.
Those will probably fill up very fast. What I'm asking is, once these areas fill up because of the capacity of the buildings that's been set, can those hub areas, can we come to those hub areas?
That's kind of what we're trying to accomplish.
So, to further answer your question, like I said, we've got county facilities, we have DOE facilities. So if a shelter maxes out, interior-wise, we can open up another one. And we use the whole regional park outside. And we've got multiple spaces like that we can use for outside camping. So, one thing we're lucky for on this island, we got space.
We got space. Right.
Yes, ma'am.
You might not know this answer, but my question is for us that own our homes here, a homeowner's insurance, because I know a lot of homes wasn't covered in Leilani because the insurance had clauses. What's the best insurance to help us protect our homes and our investments.
They don't insurance.
It goes under your fault, not insurance.
So, the insurance question, I know Leilani had issues.
Yeah.
I know some successful cases where they closed real quick, the guys were able to settle and move on, build a house.
But how did we find who they had? That's my question.
Yeah. I'll have to,
Could
I
y'all
think it was just a
investigate
regular-
for us and get back to us in our community?
Yeah, we'll do that. So if you leave your information back there, specifically asking for the insurance question, we'll follow up and we'll make that announcement on further.
Okay, thank you.
I just have a clarifying question. When the emergency alert goes out, will it say on that alert which, like south or whatever that says, North Kona, that kind of thing?
Which
On
direction?
the alert, will it tell us which direction we need to go, basically, on the alert?
We'll put as much information as we can so that you can be directed. And if it's an evacuation, we will have personnel to direct evacuation.
We won't just be driving around aimlessly, hoping we're not driving in.
We know that'll happen otherwise.
Well, I think there's only right or left. We can go,
Right.
we go wrong road, right? So if it's happening this way, you gotta go right.
So we want to eliminate any confusion, so we'll put in our messages, we'll have people on the ground to make sure you're going the right way.
And
You be quiet, please.
Does civil defense consider the possibility if we had two flows cutting across the highway, like on either side of Ocean, we're toast? Or is there a plan to get food or water to people who can't go left or right and get out of Dodge? Is that a consideration?
Absolutely. Because you saw in 1950 that happened, right? You had 3 different flows. And so we know that happens here. 2018 again, we worked multiple emergency access routes, and to the point where we work with the National Guard to work up an aviation evacuation. So it'll go to that extent if we have eruption.
So there's some past
Yes. Yeah.
experience.
Yes. Yeah. And we know, and that's why we work with HVO to get it as early warning as possible. So if we need to, we can get people out of there so they don't get isolated and stuck. That's why you got to be ready.
So there's a lot of people out there who, one, don't have cable, don't have radio. I'm one. I only use internet, or they're completely off grid, don't really want to be a part of the community, but they need to know this information. If something imminent happens, and they're the top, Coca-Cola, you know, they're all the way at the top, ain't nobody buying them for like miles. What happens, or the people who don't have transportation to get out of here. There's a number of elderly out here that have no way out. Plus, you've got over 20,000 people here that we get down, there's 5 entrance points to the highway. We have to go to Hilo, that's 20,000 cars, one time. No one's gonna get out of here in one time. There's only 5 entrances into Ocean View alone. You get to the highway, you can be stuck up to Catamaran, waiting to get down to the highway. Have you guys thought about that?
That's the action plan I was asking about.
Yes.
Yeah, you asked a bunch of.
I know, I had a couple, I'm sorry.
So,
Maybe
you know, as far as getting out of here, that's why the early warning, and you need to be prepared, knowing your situation, right?
But that's the thing, is people don't have.
And so back to that, we encourage people to know their neighbors. I know you guys are spread out here. You need to know your neighbors. You need to know the vulnerable in your community, who doesn't have vehicles and so forth. If you can't deal with them, you gotta let us know. So-and-so is still up there, they don't have a car. we do have a list.
Those people who don't have internet or anything, when you turn around and you look like this and you see the big red thing. You're warning already.
So, you know, no matter what disaster it is, we tell communities, you gotta know your neighbors. You gotta know who's vulnerable so you can support each other. We do have departments. We do have county departments that work with people in the community. So we can come in and evacuate those people. And I think Michelle's, that's part of their responsibility as well.
So briefly, in Parks and Rec, we have an elderly activities division. Part of their role at the minute a natural disaster happens is they have a list to go ahead and transport those elderly folks that do not have that access. In addition to that, if you guys know folks that are elderly that aren't hooked up with the county elderly program, I'm assuming how much to call Civil Defense, because in other situations, what we'll do is our elderly activity staff and our recreation staff, Lindsay EO is in charge of our recreation staff, they will, through Civil Defense, make that connection to work to pick up those folks. So we will do everything we can to help that happen.
I remember at the top, and we have people we don't even know who live in here, because they're such hermits. And we've been trying to do that, to make the community know our neighbors. A man died about 5 weeks ago, we did not even know he was living there, and he was inside of my place. Never knew, until his son came. You know, you got a lot of that here with people who never knew they was living, and you're living.
Yeah, I understand. You know, there's not just ocean viewing. We, you know, in Uno, we've got some remote subdivisions as well. You don't know who's in there, and it's just grown over. So that's why we depend on the, you know, the local officers and the fire folks, the folks that are on the ground. And like I say, when we do an evacuation, we go door to door to make sure folks are out. I understand. I know people live in lava tubes out here. I've heard those stories, you know, so forth. So, you know, so the question was, how do you account for people? So during a disaster, what? After the evacuation, the county will set up a disaster information center. So people will come there, we'll register them, get your information. If you think Joe Smith is still out there, we'll get that information, and we'll have to send somebody on the ground to see what's going on. Yes. Right. Right. So they actually have names. Frank put names to those zones. And those are the same maps up there as well. So we'll put out that information. You know, we'll put out mile markers as far as where the road's going to be closed. We'll give you that name. We'll give you what communities are being affected. Yeah. We'll try to cover everything. Because not just one thing gets everybody that information. Yes, ma'am.
Is there a multitude of reasons why we cannot have a shelter here? Our closest emergency shelter is in Mahalo. We'll never get there. This place has showers, it has food, it's got preparations, it's got places for people to sleep. Why is it we can't have this as an emergency shelter?
So the community can run this as an emergency center. The county cannot. It's got too much glass. But the way we look at it is for wind resistance, for hurricane shelter, for lava. If this place is still viable, the community can run this as a shelter. Yes, definitely. But it's not viable for a wind resistant shelter.
I actually don't have a question.
The woman behind you.
Oh, okay. if I could see what happened back in 2018 and the aftermath 2.5 years later, like how the communities, like when they were displaced, how long they were displaced, what the ultimate outcome was, if they were moved back to certain areas, or they had to move off the island, that kind of stuff, it would really fully help me to prepare, like when it comes to finances, you know, savings and all of that, so that when if something happened here, I would kind of know what the capabilities are of the local government to cover certain things when it comes to, you know, after the disaster is over, you know what I mean? So I didn't know if you guys had a report from the last displacement or what the ultimate outcome was for everybody.
Yeah, so from that event, recovery still goes on. Might be going on for a couple more years. You know, we'll be around after the questions to talk specifically to any people that have individual needs or requests, and then we can kind of have a more lengthy discussion with you. We'll get your information, and we'll give you whatever you need to help you out. But basically, it's the same as any disaster. You need your go kit. You need those important documents that you need to continue on after you've evacuated. Think about if you lost your house, hurricane, lava flow, whatever. What do you need to survive? To put in your claims, you know, to continue with life. That's the priority.
I wanted to say that Everbridge is a really great resource. I get all the tsunami alerts and everything, so it's really fantastic. I recommend it. I have a question for USGS, please. My house lives over a lava tube and at the edge of a 30-foot gorge. Does that mean that I'm a super conduit?
You don't have to worry about the lava tube being reoccupied. Those rarely occur, and they only go for short distances before they kind of choke the lava off inside the cooling. Low areas, lava flows do like to go down low areas, right? So, and one of the things that Frank has done inside of these different lava sheds is map out kind of a drainage like would be the water drainage. And lava generally will follow that, but once the lava flow goes down, right, it reverses it, changes a low to a high, so if there's a second flow, it'll act like a ridge instead of a valley. So these are all things that, you know, when you ask questions about the townage about, well, which way do I go, we won't know until we know which way Pele's going, right, and what Pele's going to do on the side of the mountain. So it's going to be happening in real time, and it's going to come pretty fast. And so it doesn't hurt to have a plan of what you're going to do as soon as the mountain looks like it's going to erupt. You may not want to wait until what Frank said, you can look out your back window and see the glow, right? You may want to be a little bit more proactive than that.
My question relates to that. It relates out actually probably you can answer right after that. My question is about early warning signs. If we see spots where there's heat coming out of a crack in our property where it kind of looks wavy, like on a road when it's hot, or if there's steam vents coming out, who can we notify?
We have an email
Those are early warning signs, correct? Or if like birds drop off a tree somewhere close by or something. What are the early warning signs of stuff happening in the cracks on our property?
But not every warning sign you've seen in the movie is one that we'll see out in the real world. But it's a good, if you do see something like unusual steaming and cracks, we have an email called Ask HVO, ASK-HVO @usgs.gov. We monitor that constantly. You can send us a photo and say, hey, this happened, and if it looks serious, we'll be out. Now, one thing to remember is the way the volcano works here, the eruption starts at the summit. So that's likely to be where the first signs of heat, of lava rising close to the surface are going to be. Down on the rip zones, we're not really expecting to see, magma come there until after it's hit the summit and comes down, right? But still, if you think you see things, we're glad to look at them and talk to you, and then if it seems like it warrants You know, somebody like Frank who spent his career out here says, oh yeah, that's new and different, never heard of that before. We'll send somebody out to look at it.
Say that website again, please.
It's an email address. You can find it on the USGS Hawaii Volcano Observatory website, but it's ask, like if you ask a question, ASK, and then HVO for Hawaiian Volcano Observatory at usgs.gov. So we appreciate people from the community, you know, tuning us in. It's one of the ways that we become aware of things because, as Frank said, Mauna Loa is big, right? We can't be everywhere at all times.
Yeah, worst case scenario, 2 o'clock in the morning, so West Reef, you're up. Okay. Now, we need one evacuation plan, which the team covered in one finger goes towards Kahuku Ranch, one finger goes towards Maui. We get closed up in the community. So where do we go? 10 years ago, I came up with a divider plan for all kapunas. And the only escape route, if the thing is coming down, is taking that road to Puhihe and evacuate my boat. And it's a well-traveled road. We can walk on it. The only thing right now, National Park owns the gate that closes. So that, in that sense, but if we gotta evacuate, you can leave your 72-hour kid and your 24-hour kid at home, because like you guys said, allow travel probably about 30 miles an hour coming up. And there's enough natural water to sustain us down there, and food and stuff to sustain us over 72 hours. So, you know, maybe you just can look at it, sit down, watch Puhihe.
If the gate has access to both,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
You
Because
just
then you come down to reality, you cannot take people in helicopters and fly them over.
You
There's
don't
about
have
3-4 guys in there.
So the national park is one of our partners, Hawaii Volcanoes National Park. So when we are working up plans, as far as, you know, whether it's evacuation or whatever it is, they're at the table. When we're activated, they're at the table. So if that's what it takes to open up their gate, you know, consider it, yeah. So like in 2018, we had to redo Chain of Craters Road because Highway 130 was taken out, and so we had to open up Chain of Craters Road again, so that would be an escape route. So, and that's through the national park. So we work together closely, make things happen.
Maybe they should start improving the house. Right now, it's a trouble, right?
That's up to them. They just got it, right?
Yeah.
They were too soon.
I think I got 10 spots in here.
All right, last question.
Okay. We've got nice plans on how we all think we should evacuate. You have the experience with Hula District. If we have a problem here, we have 3 hours to get our bodies out of here. So, would it be in the community's best interest to get all these plans together before time and have everybody know about it so that we can do our thing and get out of here? It's different than what you would experience before. That's why
If everybody registers at the community hall, how many people are on their property, how many children, how many adults?
Yeah. Half the people that are here, nobody knows they're here. Seriously.
So, you know, let me take that back to my planning
However
team.
many people show up,
And
then
whether it's a
somebody gets checked off the
registration,
list, they're still possibly up there.
You know, we look at the census information, and one of the outcomes that we want to have, you know, with this discussion is coming up with having information, coming up with those plans. And so, you know, we'll take that stuff back. And when we come up with a plan, if we need to come out to the community, we will to get that information. But there's so many variables with each situation. Like HVO says, they don't know where it's coming down. We've got those zones, and we prepare for that. You know your community. You know where you sit in that zone. You got to come up with your plan as well.
But couldn't we do something where they came this way and go here?
And can you look at what happened in Florida with their hurricane? I have friends that were in that zone, and they had registered with somebody to put on Facebook that they were okay. So all their people in their Facebook knew that they were all right. So is there a way this can be coordinated ahead of time?
Right, we could learn from that and see what systems they use and definitely incorporate that.
But once the electric go out, they're just gonna shut down out there. You know? If the electric goes down, we're stuck.
Right, there's a lot of variables, right? And we saw that in 2008. We actually shut down power so that people had to evacuate.
Batteries
Yeah.
for the radio. Need the batteries for the radio.
Right, you gotta do your own disaster.
Yeah. Well, we
So-
have that. They're the ones you crank up.
Yeah, yeah.
But the thing is, we don't have signal. The signal is really poor
Right.
out here, so that's the other problem.
Right. So like I said, we'll be here, all the departments will be here to answer your questions. I thank you for your time here, coming down, and your questions. Definitely looks like the community's together, concerned about this, and we'll continue working with you guys.